Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here today. My name is Vinny Adibi. I'm a PhD student at Georgia Tech, and today I have the pleasure of presenting our work on domain name disputes, conducted with my amazing collaborators at Georgia Tech. So to get us started, can I know by raising your hands how many people have a personal website or website for their startup? Okay, that's about what I was expecting. And a follow-up question to that, have you ever thought about what you will do if someone registers a domain name that is similar to the one you are using for your website and uses that domain name to damage your reputation? I will let you, okay, some people have an answer. I will let you think about that for some time, but now let me go over some, wait. No. Okay. All right, let me go over some of the characteristics that make domain names so appealing to us in academia, to people in industry, in government, and individuals. So for one thing, domain names are really easy to remember, at least when you compare them to IP addresses. And then there is the fact that when we are trying to acquire domain names, we have so much flexibility in terms of what string we choose because there are so many top-level domains. And when a string is not available, we always have options to find a different name. And because there is a lot of competition in that space, you can often get domain name for very little money. And all those characteristics make it possible to use domain name for many benign usages. But unfortunately, they also attract malicious actors who use domain name for things like phishing, scamming, and all sorts of fraudulent activities. Because of that, security practitioners find themselves having to protect end users against malicious actors. And we have developed a bunch of technical solutions against domain name-based abuse, ranging from proactive defensive registration all the way to looking at the content that is associated with those domain names and blocking them. Unfortunately, although those technical solutions work fairly well in most cases, some of those attacks actually get to the users. And fortunately, we have a set of human-based processes that we can rely on to defend our users as a last resort. And here I'm referring to domain name dispute and takedowns, whether in or outside of the court. In this presentation, I would like to focus on domain name disputes, which are based only on trademark rights. And when we compare them to takedowns, they are much faster and cheaper than going to court, and then they are also more transparent than out-of-court takedowns. And when I refer to domain name dispute, it's a process where basically a company or an individual identifies a domain name that they consider to be infringing on their trademark rights. They go to an entity, file a dispute. The domain name owner gets a chance to rebut the allegations, and a neutral person makes a decision on whether the domain name should be transferred, canceled, or remain with the domain name owner. And when we look at the UDRP, the Uniform Domain Name Dispute Resolution Policy, which is the foremost policy in that space, it has been out for more than 25 years and used by thousands of companies to reclaim domain names. And we have big companies in the entertainment, technology, cybersecurity, and big stars that are using this policy. And because this policy kind of allows big corporations to take away domain names from the small guys, many decisions sometimes are controversial, as the one you can see in the middle in red. And this controversy also translates into the academic discourse, where you see scholars getting to very widely different conclusions about the same aspect of the policy. So you have people saying that the policy is fast when others say it is inefficient, and then people saying this policy is a model when some other people say this is an international scam. And with all this controversy, for 25 years, any attempt to update this policy have been not really substantial. And our sense is the lack of significant change in the UDRP is because there are very few empirical analyses for the policy, and the ones that are there are too old, have been contentious, or are very inconclusive. And it's not for lack of trying. In fact, in 2022, ICANN commissioned a report where they were looking at what happened in the UDRP, what can we change, and what is worth looking at. And in this report, ICANN was looking at two things. They were looking at fairness and then efficiency of the policy. They also had an aspect of addressing abuse, but that's really under efficiency. And after that report, ICANN asked people to comment. And as you can expect, people were really keen on saying, we need an update. But as always, there was always disagreement about what needs to be changed. And people were very critical about the report by ICANN, where some people were saying there are questions that they wanted to be answered that were not answered, and people basically saying this report is rejected, this is not a good report. And so what we are trying to do is kind of bringing some type of rigor into this analysis and empirically answering those questions that are been stalling the change in UDRP for so many years. And just like ICANN, we are looking at fairness and efficiency. In terms of fairness, we looked at forum shopping, conflict of interest, and in terms of efficiency, we looked at how registrars, dispute resolution providers, as well as panelists engage in the process. In the interest of time, today I'm only going to focus on forum shopping and how soon registrar transfer domain names. So starting from forum shopping. To understand forum shopping, you have to know that under the UDRP, it's only the complainant who gets the chance to select what is the provider that will handle a dispute. And because each provider has their own set of panelists, you get to this situation where the complainant directly has an influence on who gets to make a decision about a dispute in most cases. And because of that setting, people have been complaining about the possibility of complainant choosing the provider mainly because they want to win a dispute. And when people analyze forum shopping in that sense, the results have been contentious or very inconclusive. And when we look at this data, what we realize is complainants are not really the ones calling the shots. They are going to law firms, big law firms, that are making these decisions, going to the provider and handling the dispute for them. And this, looking at UDRP in terms of law firms is interesting because when we look at those who participate the most in the dispute process, they are mainly law firms. And although there is no single complainant that filed more than 1,000 disputes, we have at least 4 law firms that were representing people in more than 1,000 disputes. And so we flipped the problem on its head, and instead of looking at how complainants are selecting providers, we looked at how the law firms representing the complainant are selecting the law firms. And in that analysis, we found 4 types of law firms and how they select providers. The first 2 are mostly always going to the same provider, except for maybe just once. And those ones, we consider them as not doing any sort of forum shopping. But then we have a group of law firms that work with one provider for a time, and then they switch to a different provider from that point on. And so for those ones, we consider that if the last decision before they moved to a new provider was the first negative decision they got with that provider, that they were potentially doing forum shopping. And the last one, we have some law firms that were always constantly, every day, going to different providers. And so for those ones, we try to predict the probability of choosing a provider based on various features. And if the correlation between them choosing a provider and the winning rate with that provider is high, then we consider that as forum shopping. And when we look at forum shopping through that lens, we found that more than 1/3 of past UDRP disputes have been affected by forum shopping, which obviously has serious policy implications, and we have communicated that with people in the ICANN and domain name dispute policy. Now I'm going to be talking about efficiency, and as I said earlier, in terms of efficiency, what we are looking at is how soon registrars are transferring successfully contested domain names. Just to remind you, In UDRP, when you file a dispute, there are three potential outcomes. Either you lose, and the domain name must be returned to the domain name owner, or you win, and then it's either the domain name is canceled or it gets transferred to you. And if you win and the domain name was being used maliciously, any delay by the registrar is likely to extend malicious activity. Unfortunately, in terms of UDRP, there is no way of knowing when the registrars actually implemented the decision. And so the question we were asking here was, how long does it take registrars to transfer domain name after a decision has been made? Now, we looked at the data and we found that in most cases, during a dispute, the name servers on the domain name do not change. But then at some point after the decision has been made, we see a change in the name server. And so we use that as the heuristic to find out when did the registrar implement the decision from the UDRP panelist. And we analyze historical zone files from CZDS to be able to make that inference. And using that information, we are able to look at how long registrars take to transfer domain name when the complainant win that dispute. And we found that after 1 month between the time a panel gave a decision, we see that less than half of the disputed domain name have been transferred to the complainant. And when we only look at domain names that were malicious based on virus total detection count, they take up to 4 months for registrars to be transferring those domain names to the complainant, which obviously extend malicious activity on those domain names. And now that we have kind of a sense of efficiency being an issue in UDRP, the question is, how do we fix it? And we believe to be able to fix this, we need to know what is causing this problem. It turned out we are not the only one trying to wonder or trying to figure that out. Because around the time when we were preparing this paper, WIPO and ICA, that are big leaders in this space, were also making a report on UDRP, trying to figure out what are some of the issues that are related to the policy. And they gathered a bunch of experts, did a qualitative analysis, and what they found out was, yes, registrars are taking too long to transfer the domain names. And their solution was, let's educate the registrar, let them know what they have to do. But since we had access to data, we were kind of trying to figure out, can we do something different? And so we picked each of the registrars and kind of looked at, when we look at per registrar, what do the figures look like? And so as you can see here on the x-axis on this plot, we have the number of disputes in which each registrar was involved, and then the number of business days it took them to transfer the domain names. So we have big registrars like GoDaddy and Namecheap that are taking relatively short times to transfer domain names, although they have like thousands of cases they are involved in. And then you have some other registrars like Wix that are involved in a decent number of disputes, but then taking like twice as long, which to us means that there is a possibility for registrars to actually transfer the domain name faster, but then some registrars are just too long. And so based on that, we recommended that there should be some sort of automation between registrars and providers, as well as ICANN wielding more monitoring, more oversight on how the process is handled, even after the dispute. And in December, when WIPO and ICA were releasing their final report, they made mention of automation as much as possible, and then also calling for more oversight from ICANN. And so we believe that as a community, it's important for us to conduct such studies that influence policy, that impact the way we do our work and the types of work that we can do. And I invite all of you to engage in such processes. Our paper and our data set are available for further analysis, and I'll be taking your questions now. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh.
Hi, this is Barry Lieba from FutureWay. Have you done any correlation of these results with the top-level domains that these disputed domain names were in? Seeing, for instance, is there any difference between CC TLDs and generic TLDs, differences between, say, org and com versus some of the newer TLDs that have a lot of abuse in them and that sort of thing?
Thank you. That's a great question. We did not go that deep, but one thing I know for sure is the vast majority of dispute is .com. So I guess most of the statistics actually come from .com.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Wes Hardiker, Google and the ICANN board of directors. Fantastic work. I mean, it looks really interesting. So I guess my question would be, do you have concrete sort of forward path solutions based on your analysis? I love seeing all the graphs. I'm going to go read your paper in greater detail for how you think ICANN policy could change in the future to fix some of the problems that you've identified. Recognizing, I'm sure you know how long it takes policy changes in ICANN to actually take place. We're looking at years, right? But the way to start is the first step. Do you have concrete ideas on what you think needs to be done or could be improved?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Wex. We did have a bunch of recommendations in the paper, and I agree the policy development in ICANN is kind of slow. So one of the things that we recommended in terms of forum shopping is potentially giving respondents some way of like choosing which provider they are comfortable working with, and then also like making sure people are responding to the process, and maybe making 3-member panels like the default and things like that.
All right, thank you for your work.
Yeah, thank you, X.
I would also like to mention that Vinny is looking for internships, and this artifact is evaluated as well as proven functional by our artifacts team at NDSS, who have done diligent work on that. So that's amazing. I have one question. You mentioned that you have used profiling, and I read the paper statistic profiling, right? So in your future work, maybe, do you happen to address the privacy concerns associated with it?
Privacy concerns with the data?
With how the user behavior is being profiled and what data is collected to profile that.
I mean, thank you for the question. So the data in the UDRP is public. It's ICANN requires the providers to publicly like share the data. So that information is already public. But there are some like privacy issues. We can talk a little bit about that offline.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Wonderful work again. Let's give a warm round of applause.